Just thought I'd hang out tonight and watch Charlie Adelson's amazing cross-examination, because I'd probably be doing it anyway. So this is, of course, the murder for hire trial of Dan Markel. They've convicted Katie Magbanoa, the middle woman, and the two hitmen, Luis Rivera, and now I'm forgetting the name of the other one, but I'm sure it will come up in this. But it's quite a stupid decision to defend himself and to testify. And he's a dentist, so you can see he's been thinking about this for a long time in jail. He didn't get bail, and he is like fully prepared for all these questions. So this is Georgia Kappelman, the prosecutor, and many people feel she bombed out and that they might get a hung jury now, that he did such a good job, like studying his own case, that they may get a hung jury in this. He looks annoyed, doesn't he? Annoyed and nervous. So, of course, Charlie Adelson is the brother of Wendy Adelson, who was married to Dan Markel. And his whole story that he was being extorted and that he was dating the hitman's girlfriend, Katie, and that it was really to extort him. So they killed Dan first, the one member of the family that they all hated, all the Adelsons hated. And Katie was extorting him for money. It was the most ridiculous story. So you think on cross it would be easy to just, and he's caught on tape.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Adelson, is it doctor?
It is, yes.
All right, doctor. Have you ever heard the saying that the simplest explanation is always the most likely? Have you heard that?
I've heard that theory before, yeah.
Was your explanation to the jury over the last little over a day the simplest explanation?
It was the truth.
You have a thorough explanation. Would you agree with that?
I told you what happened.
Do you agree that the only problem with having an explanation for everything is that there's just so many explanations?
There's no explanation. I explained what happened.
I want to go through some of that. You claim that you were extorted on July 18th, 2014 by Catherine.
There's so many stories to memorize, and he seems to have memorized them all. Like every wiretap, every piece of evidence in this case, he seems to have memorized. Like I imagine he learned to memorize things for medical school.
Magbanoa, and also in the background, some Latin kings, probably Garcia and Rivera, right? Is that accurate?
No, I wasn't extorted by Catherine Magbanoa.
You weren't?
That's not what I believed in 2014.
Okay, I'm sorry. I understood you to say you believe that today.
Today I do, yes.
All right, so who extorted you?
I believe that it was Catherine Magbanoa's friend that she ran her mouth to.
Okay,
And
at
that's 2014.
Right, but as you sit here today, you think it's Magbanoa, Garcia, and Rivera. Is that accurate?
No, that's not accurate.
Okay. Who extorted you?
As I sit here today, I believe that it was Catherine Magbanoa, and I believe Sigfredo Garcia, but I don't know for sure.
Sigfredo Garcia, that's the shooter. So he's the father of Catherine Magbanoa's children. and he was dating Katie, and apparently paid for one breast of her breast augmentation. He, of course, denies it. The Adelsons just get up on the stand and lie. What a family. This is my opinion, of course. Don't come sue me, Wendy Adelson, the lawyer. But she's walking free, and she, of course, had the most to gain. So Wendy wanted to move her children desperately from Tallahassee, where Dan Markel taught law. Dan Markel's the victim in this case, to Miami, where her parents live. So her parents, her brother, and she all got together and concocted this plot. I don't think that Wendy knew the details, major details. She knew when it was happening because she drove by the crime scene after it happened. And she was like, oh, the roads are cut off, while she was going to buy Bullet bourbon. I mean, this case is filled with little things like that. Like, for example, their code word for this hit was the TV, meaning that Adelson's code word was the TV. And of course, she was having her TV repaired. Wendy was at the time of Dan's murder.
I was never there when she was ever talking to him, so I don't know if he was in on it with her or not.
All right. At the time, though, you did not think she was guilty. We got that right. The time of the
In
extortion.
2014?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And then so exactly when you found out would be, I think you said, her trial.
That I suspected that she was not telling me the truth and she was a part of it was in 2019.
At her trial?
Yes.
All right. And so she was arrested in 2016, right?
So what she's going with is she's going to say, well, Katie never said this at her 2 trials. She didn't say this now. So basically all of their stories have been like, you got it right with all the other defendants, but not me. That was Katie's defense. She hung a jury and then she got convicted and she's serving a life sentence. Now, of course, Katie came in here and testified against Charlie Adelson, and very well. Of course, Court TV was like, oh, that's such a dumb move. I really can't stand their talking heads on Court TV. They're on Law and Crime. Excuse me. Law and Crime. They're so wrong. They were like, well, she's lied so much, but she was an excellent witness. But what I would be doing if I were the Monday morning quarterbacking, of course, if I were the prosecutor, I would go into all the stories, all the consistent stories that people have told in this case and say, is this person lying? This person lying? And just stack up the amount of different stories. So they were lying and this was really, you were really being extorted and put on a payment plan by the Latin Kings. That's how I would do it. But these lawyers are always taught to ask questions that they know the answer to, this kind of one style of asking, and they don't get creative. They can ask anything they want up there. I mean, within the bounds of the law.
Yes.
All right. So for 3 years, she was in the Leon County Jail awaiting trial. Yes.
She was there.
And you believed she was innocent.
Yes.
And you had this whole explanation to assist with exonerating her, right?
I have the truth of what happened, yes.
But you didn't offer the truth of what happened, did you?
Nobody came to me. I thought the truth would come out.
Does someone have to come to you?
I was told not to talk to Katie and not to talk to anybody about this case by counsel.
Okay. So you strike that. On day 1, which is July 18th, 2014, she is the only one that physically contacted you to conduct this extortion. Am I correct in that?
Yes, you are.
So you never actually had any contact with any Latin King?
No.
No phone calls?
No phone calls.
No texts?
No.
No letters?
Well, in 2016, you're talking about in 14, right?
I'm talking about the first layer of the extortion. Did you have any contact with the thugs that were getting your money for 2 years?
No.
Did anybody put a gun to your head?
I was told that I would be killed in 48 hours if I didn't pay up.
I heard you say that, but
Yeah.
my question is, did anyone put a gun to your head?
You asked me, did anyone pull a gun on me?
That's what
Is
I
that your
asked you.
question? No,
Yeah.
nobody pulled a firearm on me.
All right, so when Catherine Madbanwa came to you on July 18th and said, open the safe and give me all your money, she was not armed.
She was not carrying a gun that day,
And
no.
were you armed at that time? Did you have a weapon in your home?
I had weapons.
He already testified. This is a really smart question because he already testified that he was sleeping with a gun after Dan Markel's murder and that he was walking around with a gun. And now you'll see how his story changes. But he's like this cold stone psychopath that's going to just lie no matter what. Like, and also very streetwise, street way of lying. Like, unless you have proof in front of me, even my story is so unbelievable. But you can't say that you can't prove it's not. I'm going to stick with my unbelievable story.
Into my safe, yes.
Were you led to believe or told that the bad guys are outside, right outside your apartment or your residence?
No, but I was led to believe what they did to Dan, they were going to do to me.
I heard you say that, but my question is, did she say, like, the car's running, I'm going to take the money out there to him right now?
No, she never told me that they were waiting for me outside my house.
In fact, she stayed the night with you, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
And didn't exit your house with your $138,000 until the next day, right?
Correct.
And the money, the $138,000, was that stapled into $1,000 increments?
Each packet was $1,000, and had a staple in it.
And stapling money's a little unusual. Would you agree with that?
For me, it wasn't unusual. That's what I did.
Right, but nobody else does it. That's why I'm suggesting it's unusual.
I've never questioned people into how they keep their money, whether they keep it with a staple or a paper clip or an envelope. I just know what I do.
Would you agree, doctor, that it's a compelling piece of evidence that the killers were paid in stapled money and came up with that information in this case?
It's not compelling. The people who extorted me and got my money got it from my house, and it was stapled at my house.
They had to have gotten it from you, right? Because it was.
So he's going to tailor his story to the evidence now. He says, of course, because I was being extorted for something else. It's not that I paid for the hit on Dan Markel, the most likely. And so that's why she starts with the most likely Occam's razor, that's not exactly good telling. The Occam's razor is when you have two equally good theories, you pick the simplest one, not the simplest. It's been whittled down to the simplest theory, or the simplest story is often the correct, truest, or true story. But he's going to say, of course, because he's tailored his whole story to this. But to my eye, I wouldn't buy this as a juror, but there might be one who does. And there's one male juror who is shaking his head visually at Georgia Kappelman, the prosecutor. I think they're called state's attorneys in Florida, where this trial is happening, and nodding his head along with Charlie Adelson. So hopefully he's an alternate juror that won't make the jury. But if he's as passionate as his head nods, and it could be a hung jury with this ridiculous testimony.
It was stapled.
If they got it from Katie, they got it from me.
So it had to be some kind of, I paid, but I did it under duress, based on that piece of evidence, right? That had to be built into your defense.
I was extorted, and I paid the money.
All right. So Katie comes in and she's in a panic, and she tells you what's happened. And I need all the money in your safe right now. Do you suspect that maybe she's working with the police at that point? Maybe she's trying to set you up?
No, she didn't say I need all the money in your safe. That's not what she said.
Did she take all the money in your safe?
Georgia Kappelman should have stayed on this line of questioning. But he's getting her off of it. But there was a bump in this case, which means they put a law enforcement undercover officer went up to Charlie Adelson's mother with a picture of Dan Markel and $5,000 and pretending to be some gang member who was in prison with the shooter, saying, you got to help take care of my brothers in prison. And I know all about it. And I'm going to go to the police because I know how the whole Adelson clan conspired to murder Dan Markel. And they were recorded on wiretaps talking about it. So, of course, Charlie Adelson has tailored his story to that, saying, oh, well, I was just trying to figure out who's extorted me, I guess. And Georgia Kappelman is asking, why didn't you, when you thought Katie was extorting you, ask around the way you asked around with the undercover police officer? I hope that makes sense. Hope you get that.
I out all the money in my safe and handed it to her.
Right. Why did you do that?
Because I was being extorted for $350,000.
But why didn't you? The bump was only $5,000, and you immediately became suspicious and questioning and had all these conversations and deliberations about what to do about it for days. When Katie comes to you, you just open the safe and give her the money, right?
That's what I did. And there's a big difference between the two.
Okay, well, the way that it was done to you, is that the way it's done?
You have to be more specific. Please.
Well, on the wire, you say repeatedly, that's not the way it's done. You knew that the undercover agent was law enforcement, or at least strongly suspected, because that's not the way it's done. And my question to you is, since you're an expert on extortion, because you've been extorted before, and that's how you knew that's not the way it's done, is this the way it's done? Do extortionists send a girlfriend of their victim to collect their extortion money? Is that the way it's done, doctor?
I'm telling you what happened to me. And I was told that if I didn't pay in 48 hours, I would be killed. The person that came and extorted my mom, that was not the same approach as what happened to me.
Is that the only way? That's the only way it's done? They send the girlfriend?
It's the only time I've ever been extorted like that.
Okay. And did you hear any of the negotiate? So they come in and they say, strike. They come in and they say, we need $333,000.
You need to pay $333,000.
You need to pay $333,000. Why not $1 million?
Because when I had told to Katie that the $1 million offer for Dan Markel, I said I was going to pay $333,000. And when she asked me, do you have that much money? And I said, yeah, I could pay it in cash. So she took it as I had cash, and she knew I had a ton of cash in my safe. So she thought I had the cash. I didn't.
Katie McBanoa, this like a petite, 5-foot little woman, tiny woman, is going to intimidate him. I mean, I hope the jurors are paying attention. That's her point. But he's like, yeah. And so they put me on a payment plan. What? Yeah, I just paid it in bits that looked like I was paying off the middle woman in bits and drabs. But really, I was just being extorted on a payment plan to the Latin kings. What, guys? Come on.
They didn't have all that cash. So that's where I'm assuming they got the $333,000 from.
But the offer that she bragged about was $1 million offer. Isn't that right? That she ran her mouth about.
I was never there when she spoke to her friend.
Okay, was it $1 million offer?
The offer was that $1 million was going to be paid, and I was going to pay $333,000.
And weren't you going to cover Wendy's third as well?
No, not at all. I was going to cover my third.
Didn't your lawyer say in an opening statement that you were going to cover the whole thing for Wendy's third?
No, I was sitting here. I heard what he said. Charlie was going to pay $333,000.
All right. And so the offer was $1 million offer, and that's what you told Katie, along with the fact that you were going to cover the third.
I was telling her that I was going to pay $333,000, yeah. And then one day, if my sister was able to, she was going to pay me back.
And then you didn't have the amount of money that was being demanded at the time, right?
No, I only had what I had.
All right. And at that point, the blackmailer, Catherine Magbanowa, negotiates some.
Wait, his sister is going to pay him back for the way he was extorted because her ex-husband was killed, who she was in a horrible custody battle with and who everyone in the family hated. He was going to pay her back. She was going to pay him back the extortion money because she troubled him with it. Please, someone explain that to me in the comment section. I do not get that train of thinking.
Some type of layaway plan for you to complete the extortion with the Latin Kings.
Okay, Katie wasn't the blackmailer, and Katie wasn't the one who was extorting me.
Didn't you just tell this jury that Katie was the blackmailer? You realized it in 2019.
I had thought that when you were just talking, you were talking about 2014. You were talking about that night.
Okay.
So that's night happened
Doctor.
in 2014.
Okay. We all know now, because you have revealed the puzzle piece. She's a blackmailer. Can we agree on that?
I believe sitting here in 2023
Yes.
that she was in on the extortion for sure.
Yes. So is it okay if I refer to her as a blackmailer?
I think there's a difference between blackmail and extortion, but yeah,
Okay.
sitting here today, we can. Sure.
We'll refer to her as an extortionist. So this woman.
That would have been a great opportunity to ask, what's the difference between blackmail and extortion? What's the difference? If he keeps saying extortion, 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 what's the difference? So he's saying, oh, I would be killed if I didn't pay up? Then why wouldn't he go to the cops? They were talking about going to the cops with the undercover guy, which she brings up. It doesn't make any sense, the story. And she should have been hammering him on it.
The extortionist is going to do you a solid by negotiating with the Latin Kings for you to get on a payment plan for the extortion. Isn't that what happened?
What you're doing is you're taking what we know in 2003 and trying to say, this is what I knew in 2014.
Did she put you on a payment plan?
Yes, she said, because I didn't have the money, she said, ask me if I could pay $3,000 a month in 2014. And I said, yes, I can.
Did you hear any of the conversation where she was making these negotiations on your behalf?
No, when she said, I'm going to go check with my friend and if that's okay with him, she took her purse, took her keys, took her cell phone. She walked out of my front door, closed the door behind her, and I sat in my living room. And she came back about 5 minutes later.
You didn't want to talk to the guy yourself?
No, I didn't even think of that. I mean, but she went outside to call him.
All right. And then the two of you took a Xanax and went to sleep.
Well, I took a Xanax. I don't know if she took one out of the bottle, but I definitely did.
Because that's what you want to do. You want to fall asleep next to your extortionist. But he didn't know she was an extortionist back then. It's so crazy, this story. I'm really trying to make sense of it.
And the next morning, she left with your money, right?
She left about 8:30 the next morning.
That's July 19th, 2014.
Correct.
Let's talk about what you did that day. You did not report this to the police because you were in fear, correct?
Absolutely.
And you didn't report this to Wendy, even though, according to you, her life was in danger too, correct?
Potentially, but I planned on paying the extortion every month.
All right.
Right, and he didn't tell a friend. He didn't tell anyone. I would have asked him who he told about this. No one? He's so embarrassed until now. Because this is a whole new story no one's heard until this trial.
But you did go to the gym that morning, right? Can we show that text, please? Were you able to go to the gym the next
I
morning?
absolutely didn't leave the house. I worked it out at Nova Southeastern Gym. You can check the gym records. I was never there.
Okay.
Yeah, just like I can check the camera for JF Garabay dropping Allura off. Yeah, like he knows she doesn't have the gym records. He's just totally BSing. And then if she had the gym records and showed it, he would be like, "Oh, they got the wrong date. They don't have good staff there."
Did you say you were going to the gym,
I said I was, yeah.
but you didn't actually go?
No, I didn't leave the house.
All right. So would you agree, doctor, and we'll refresh your memory with them if we can, that the text messages that were exchanged between yourself and Catherine McVanois on the morning after this exchange of money were inconsistent with your extortion theory?
They were inconsistent with how I was feeling.
They don't appear to look like you just gave her $138,000 under duress, do they?
She told me the last thing she said to me before she left the house is, "Can we just pretend like this never even happened?" So when I sent her that message, I was trying to show her, like, I'm trying to forget all about it.
Yeah, you were just demonstrating to her that you would agree to pretend nothing happened, right?
Absolutely. That's what she asked me to do, and that's what I tried to do.
So the text messages aren't what they appear to be. It's a beautiful day. I'm going to the pool. I'm going to the beach. I'm going to the gym. None of that is what it appears to be. It's something else.
I absolutely did not go to the gym. I was trying to show her that I
Wait, let's look at these. It's beautiful. Probably the pool. Headed to the gym. Thanks for extorting me. Are you taking the kids to the beach? It's so nice. Katie, it's beautiful. Probably the pool. Nice. Have fun. Ethan must be really happy. I think he means. Just got back from the pool. Hope you're doing okay. Thanks, extortionist. Thanks for asking. Just going to try to rest. What a joke. What a joke this defense is.
was, pretending like nothing ever happened and looking past it.
And there's nothing on the wire. All those hours of you talking. There is nothing on the wire about the extortion, this layer 1 of extortion, because she told you not to talk about it, right?
She told me to never talk about anything to anyone or her. She never wanted to hear about it again.
And yesterday, in your testimony, between you and your attorney, you mentioned the word extortion 123 times. Would you take my word for that?
I'm sure it came up a lot.
Okay. But nowhere, even in the midst of this whole second extortion, it's happening again. It's an extension of the same thing. Do you mention anything about this layer 1 of the extortion? Do you?
Yes, actually, I did.
Okay.
If you pull up the video from Matsuri when I was sitting with my dad, and I said, and the funny thing is, that's what I whispered in his ear.
Right, but we can't hear that.
Right, because that's my point. I never wanted anybody to hear what had happened. I never wanted the police to come talk to me. But if you put up that video, you'll actually see me saying that it's my dad's ear, and that's why I went in.
So he's thought about this question. He's thought about the answer. He knew he was going to be asked this question. Kudos to his defense team for fully preparing him for this cross. But he's been going over all the transcripts, every piece of evidence in this case. He studied it. So he's telling his dad about this extortion, but he's just not on tape. Great.
And that's what we were talking about at the time. So
At Matsuri, the only time you mention the extortion, it's in a whisper that is not picked up by the microphones, right?
Intentionally, yes.
Yes. And that was intentional at the time, but it sucks for your defense, right? Because that would be a huge piece of evidence for you to show this jury, wouldn't it?
No, I think you'd come up with a reason why that I said it anyway.
And there's nobody to correct.
Oh, you mean prosecutors always coming up with your evidence arguments. You and your evidence spoil my great defense.
Corroborate this testimony.
There is.
Okay. And the Matsuri, you talked about it again out in the parking lot, right? Wasn't that your testimony?
Yes, we spoke in the parking lot.
Okay, so you did talk about the extortion.
That's
You just didn't do it in a way that it was captured on any of the recordings in this case.
well, we spoke when we had privacy.
Well, you had privacy on the phone, right?
When?
At least you thought you had privacy on the phone. Every time when you were talking on the phone for
No,
hundreds of hours on this wire.
There's always a chance that I was being listened to.
Okay.
I mean,
well, there was a chance you were being listened to when you whispered in Dad's ear, right? And Catherine McVanawa and you discussed this first layer of extortion in the car outside of Dolce Vita too, right?
That's when I found out everything that was going on, and she opened up when I
But
confronted
if
her.
this jury could hear that conversation recorded, we would all be hearing basically what you're telling us, that there was an extortion effort that predated the undercover operation. Wouldn't
Right.
we?
Because I was trying to see if Sigfredo was behind the extortion of my mom, because I knew he was behind. Always had a feeling he was behind what happened to me, and she was having this explosive fight with him, and it was going on the same exact time that my mom started getting extorted. So I thought that he was going after my mom.
Don't you wish that that conversation in the car had been recorded?
I don't know.
Wouldn't it prove your theory?
Yeah.
That you're talking about the
if I
prior
think about it,
extortion.
then you'd know exactly what happened back then.
But unfortunately, it wasn't recorded. And then everything that was recorded inside the restaurant, you don't mention it, right?
I'm speaking very carefully. I mean, I was still, even when I was in the car with Katie, she was doing most of the talking. That was the first time she really opened up, and I think I caught her off guard. I was still, even when I spoke to her in the car, I was real careful. I said, was T behind what happened to me? Like, I wouldn't even say the words to her when I was in the car.
Okay, was T behind what happened to me? Do you say anything anywhere on the wire about referencing what happened to me? Meaning what happened to me before?
No, because that was the only time I ever confronted her. But I did actually when I would be on the wire with my mom, and I would say it's not the same person. Like, that was in reference to what happened to me, and she
What
knew
call
that.
do you say it's not the same person?
Okay, you want to know what call? It was Tuesday, the 26th. And I said it's at the end of the call. It was a 2-minute and something call.
April 26th?
April 26th, 2016. It was a 2-minute and something call. It was towards the very end. And I go, I know it's not done like this. It's 48 hours, just enough time. It's not the same person.
Because they're talking about the undercover, of course, here. The undercover gave the piece of paper to Donna Adelson, who's the smartest one, the mother of all of them, who said, like, I'm not going to say anything over the phone. And he was chit-chatting all over the phone. And then, of course, they caught him in the Dolce Vita restaurant talking with Katie about the undercover. And, of course, Charlie eventually figured out that it was an undercover police officer because he never really threatened him. He just said, do the right thing and things, because the police officer can't threaten them. So eventually he figured it out. And in call, you hear him tell Katie that he discovered, he's singing about pigs on a track. And, they're talking in code, pot-belly pigs, pigs, of course, being the slang for cops.
So you can look it up.
Okay, I'm with you. It's not the same person you were referencing as the person that blackmailed me years ago and has been blackmailing me for years.
Yeah.
That's what you meant.
It's not the same person that's extorting me, correct?
All right. So I want to go back to Wendy. Wendy is in the process of relocating from Tallahassee to South Florida, basically the day that this is going on, day after the money drop, right?
They're packing up the car. They're coming back. Yeah.
Right. So she's going to be moving significantly closer to the killers that had threatened her life.
This what I don't she wasn't planning it wasn't a permanent move or anything that was planned. I think she took a suitcase with her.
But she's your family member, yes. She's much closer to the one they've already killed than you, right?
Say it again.
She's much closer. She's got much deeper connections to the person they've already killed. That's Dan Markel than you do.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason to fear for her safety because these killers have come, they've just killed Dan, and now they're saying they're going to kill another one. It could be Wendy, right?
She has no idea what's going on.
Exactly. But you let her move from Tallahassee to Miami where you knew the killers were located. That's my point. Do you agree with that?
The killers were able to find Dan Markel in Tallahassee. They have a car.
They were. But would you rather live in Tallahassee or in Miami if the killers are in Miami?
I think if these people want to find you, they'll find you.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think. I mean, looking at Luis Rivera, I don't think a distance would stop them.
Okay. Where did Wendy and the boys live when she first moved to South Florida?
When she first moved to South Florida, she moved in with my parents into a small apartment. They actually had to get another apartment because that one was too small.
With your parents?
She moved in with them, yeah.
And I want to talk about the cameras. You bought cameras for the Adelson Institute and your home at Whale Harbor, right?
Yes.
The camera system, yeah. All right. And what about Wendy's? I guess she didn't have a place. So like wherever she was staying with your parents, were cameras installed there as well at that same time frame that you installed these cameras?
No, I never told her what happened, but they lived in a very secure building.
Isn't it true, Doctor, that you'd been planning to install those cameras for some time before the murder?
I actually already had cameras at my house that I had installed in 2008. The technology from 2008 to 2014 had changed a lot when it came to cameras.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think you mentioned all that on direct. I'm referring to this particular update that was done post homicide. You were in communication with this camera guy, and I think your lawyer mentioned this. You had 84 text messages with him dating back to January 20th of 2014 in regards to the update that occurred post murder. Do you agree with that?
I know there was always talk that we were going to get cameras in the office, and we just never got around to it. When this happened, that week, within probably 3 days, I called the camera guy up and I said, I want to get cameras in my house and my new cameras for my house, and I want to get cameras in my office. How soon can you come out and do it? And then he came out, I'd say 4 or 5 days after that, bought the equipment and installed it that week.
Did you hire a private investigator to help you with this whole problem you were having?
With the extortion?
Yes.
No, I didn't tell anybody.
Did you get a bodyguard?
No, I carried a gun on me, and I always sleep with a gun next to me in bed, and carried a gun on my person and had a gun in my car at all times.
Do you recall a statement you made on the Dolce Vita recording that said you were going to start carrying a gun?
Yeah, because for a long time, after this happened, I was carrying a gun, and it's uncomfortable, and I don't always like carrying a gun, so I hadn't carried.
Right. So I was supposed to be carrying a gun, and then I got caught saying I was going to start carrying a gun. So yeah, so I stopped carrying it for a little while because it was uncomfortable. But then I decided to start carrying again because I could deal with the discomfort. Because all of a sudden, with no reason, I'm now more scared than I was when this began. These are the kind of like stone cold psychopathic liars that just drive you crazy. Like, doesn't matter how many little lies you get caught, catch them, and they're going to stick to their story.
Carried a gun in a while, and I was going to start carrying one again.
But you did say in 2016, I'm going to start carrying one.
Yeah, I carried probably for about 4 to 6 months after this happened, and I wear scrubs, so the gun that I had can kind of stick out, and it's uncomfortable. I prefer not to carry a gun. So
you quit carrying it, but during the time you were still paying the extortion.
Right. So in case you forgot, he's a dentist. He's an orthodontist. He went to 3 extra years of dental school so he can operate on your bones and your jaw. Just reminds me of Little Shop of Horrors, that the horrible dentist character in that.
Money.
Yes.
All right. And the extortion money that you were paying, $3,000 a month, that wasn't going towards the principal of whatever was left on the 333,000, right? Didn't you testify to that?
Correct.
All right. So you never came up with the remaining bulk of the money that you owed.
Never.
And nobody ever came after you for that?
No, they said you could pay it all off and it'll be done, or just pay $3,000 a month. So I thought about paying the full amount.
All right. Then a couple weeks later.
So, fun fact about Charlie, according to Jeffrey Lacasse, who was Wendy Adelson's boyfriend, a social work professor who put this all together immediately, or pretty close to immediately, 4 to 6 months after the murder happened. He told the police to look at Charlie Adelson and look at Wendy and the whole family, because their favorite pastime was hating Dan Markel, according to Jeffrey Lacasse. But according to Jeffrey Lacasse, Charlie Adelson likes to take trips to like Thailand on sex tourism trips so he can sleep with children. Great guy.
Later, after the initial extortion, you and Catherine Magbanua broke up, according to your direct. Did I have that right?
That's not correct.
Oh, when did you break up?
Within a week, I met her. We went out to dinner. We went out to eat, and I just said, "This has got to end."
All right,
Yeah,
so
we
you
were
broke up with her.
Yes.
Weren't you scared that if you broke up with her, that she would sick the Latin Kings on you?
No, because I had every intention of paying every month. When I broke up with her and I said, "Listen, I don't want to surround myself with this. I'm scared." She said that she was going to come every month and pick up the money and protect me, and she understood. I mean, our relationship was on the rocks.
But you've testified that all the gifts and stuff that you gave her were to keep her happy, right?
Yeah, when I realized that she's the one who's protecting me and she wasn't a part of this extortion, I had no problem keeping her happy, and I looked for nice things to do for her because she was broke.
But not worried about pissing her off by breaking up with her.
Well,
he paid for a vacation for Katie and the hitman, if I'm remembering correctly, which I think I am.
Relationship was definitely on the rocks. After July 1st, when Sigfredo cut me off and threatened me and called my dad, and then she knew I didn't even invite her to my dad's birthday party, which was a family gathering with family friends on July 5th. She knew we were going to be done.
After you broke up with Catherine Magbanua a week after the murder, did you continue to talk to her?
We still communicated for sure.
Talk on the phone?
And texted, yeah.
And meet up?
No, the only time I would see her was I saw her again the end of August. She came and picked up the money, and that's when she asked me if I could put her on the books because none of this money was going to her and she needed to get health insurance for her kids. So I said, yeah, I'll do it and help you out.
And did you continue to hook up with her after the breakup? And by that, I mean, have sex with her.
There was one occasion. There was one time that we hooked up.
Okay. When was that?
I want to say it was probably about 5 months after we'd broken up.
Okay. Well, there was one other occasion, but
apparently, and they're still sexting each other. And apparently he's not too good at remembering these occasions this one occasion multiplies very quickly.
For that in October of 2014. Do you recall that? October 9th of 2014?
That's probably the occasion I'm talking about, because July, let me count the months, July, August, September, October. So 4 months.
Okay, and there's another one on October 15th. You remember that one?
No, I think we did hook up about one time.
Okay, well, one time on October 9th and one time on October 15th.
I thought it was one time. If it was 2 times, it's been.
Could it have been 2 times?
But no more.
Okay. And on August 25th, 14. That would have been after the breakup, right?
Yeah.
You text her, and then she replies, I don't need help. I'm good. Don't need favors, nor will I trust anyone again. Erase my number, please. Go on with your life like you did already and have been doing. Sorry we spoke today. I don't want to stress your life more. Don't do anything for me. Do you remember receiving that text from Catherine Magbanua?
Yeah, sounds familiar.
And that's a pretty weird text to get from the extortionist. You're meeting her to give her money. Why is she saying erase my number?
She's not the extortionist.
On
At that, in
9/11,
2000, see, you're in 2014. I didn't think she was the extortionist.
right, but it's been revealed that she was.
In 2019, so you're taking what was known in 2019, and you're trying to say I knew what I knew in.
I'm not trying to say you knew. I'm trying to say she knew. She knew she was the extortionist. Why is she telling you to erase her number and leave her alone?
Because I broke up with her.
Exactly. On 9/14 of or 9/11 of 14, she sends you hashtag bestie for life. Do you remember that?
It sounds familiar.
So did you all have some kind of reconciliation after the breakup?
No, I was probably doing a favor and making her happy with something.
On
Probably borrowed some
10/6
money.
of 2004.
Because he was so scared of this 5 foot, probably 4'11", more like, tiny little woman. And if you listen to the wire tapes, I mean, this guy is just, I think Jeffrey Lacasse put it the best, that he straddles both worlds, the street world and the world of dentistry, kind of rich people's world. But very street savvy. Not the kind of guy would be running from Katie Magbanua, or Magbanua. Heard her name pronounced both ways. No one knows how to pronounce it. Not even Charlie Adelson. Adelson, excuse me.
14. I love you. It makes me feel good that you care about me. I'm lucky to have you as part of my life. Do you remember sending that to her?
Yeah.
On 10/9 of 14, I mentioned the sex talk. I won't go into the details of it. Again, 10/15, more sex talk. 10/23 of 14. Thank you again for everything you're doing for my mommy. She sends you that. What were you doing for her mother?
I don't know. I think I did a consult for her, but I didn't do anything for her mom.
2/24 of 15. You agree that she always knows how to make you smile, and you say, I love you to her. Remember that?
Yeah, I cared a lot about Katie, and I didn't think that she was a part of this. So I was always trying to keep her happy and make her happy. And I felt like she got dragged into something that she shouldn't have been dragged into.
Okay, maybe, but she dragged you into it as well.
I didn't see it like that at all. And our relationship actually got stronger. You know, initially when I got extorted, I had limited contact with her and I was cold to her. And then over time, I realized that
extortion brings a couple together, especially when the woman's extorting the man because of her thug ex-husband or man, baby daddy. This is ridiculous. Kudos to him for telling the story with a straight face, though. And shout out to all the people who love trials, love watching trials. It's a definite slower pace. I'm just one of those trial junkies. I love it.
she's the one who's protecting me, and she's not involved with these people because the extortion never went up and Katie was always broke. So
she was involved with them because she had a child with the guy, right?
I didn't know for sure it was him,
But you suspected always that it was him.
I always suspected that Sigfredo was behind this.
So
yeah.
wouldn't you want to distance yourself from this woman who, I mean, were you ever really that serious about her to begin with?
I mean, we spent 7-8 months together.
But you were never considering marrying her.
No, I wasn't considering.
I mean, you were a playboy, right? You had a zillion girlfriends.
That is actually not even true.
Okay. Did you have a lot of girlfriends?
I had 2 girlfriends in the 2 or 3 years after her. I've dated Whitney Kick for 9 months.
Okay, but how many women were you talking to and engaging with sexually? A lot more than Whitney Kitt, right?
There could have been 1 or 2.
Or more?
No,
Okay. Point being, you were not going to marry Catherine McBanoa.
I wasn't having marriage plans. No.
Okay. And you have now broken up with her after this incident.
Yes.
She's the person that's taking the money from you physically.
She's the one. I looked at it as she's the one who's protecting me. If she wasn't, I was going to get a visit
Is
from
she
somebody.
the one that was physically taking the money?
Yes.
Is she the one that was connected to the person you suspected to have killed your brother-in-law?
I thought she was tied to that person. Yes.
And she's the one that got you into this, right? Because she ran her mouth.
And
Right?
I looked at that I ran my mouth too. And if I never said anything to her, this would never have happened. So I felt responsible for saying something to her in the first place.
But you didn't feel responsible enough to try to do anything about her sitting in jail, an innocent woman, for 3 years. Did you?
He thought the truth would come out. That's his answer, right? To almost everything. But interesting questions here. These I missed earlier.
She never contacted me.
You didn't offer to testify in her trial. You let her get convicted and get life in prison, didn't you?
I thought the truth was going to come out.
But not through you.
I was never contacted. I thought it was going to come out through her.
Was there any contact between your lawyers and her lawyers?
You'd have to ask them.
You said you didn't have any contact with her.
Did
you
I
have
had
any
zero contact with her.
So your lawyers didn't tell you anything on behalf of her lawyers?
Absolutely not.
And her lawyers didn't hear anything from your lawyers?
I don't know what lawyers talk about, but I can tell you that I never talked to Katie.
And he knows that the lawyers can't say anything because that's under client privilege. So great lie there.
And I never told my lawyers.
You never relayed a message through your lawyers that the Adelson family would not be talking in this case?
Absolutely not.
And she had nothing to worry about as far as that end was concerned?
That's not true at all.
Did you or your agent contact her brother to offer to assist with her attorney's fees in her case?
That's a complete lie.
On 10/27 of 15, you say you can't wait to get lunch with her. She's the best, and you're lucky to have her as a friend for life. Did you say that?
Yes.
10/27/15, you can't wait to get lunch with her. 10/30/15, you tell her you miss her. 12/9 of 15, again, you tell her she's the best.
Yeah, I said all those things.
Do you agree that this picture does not look like a relationship between an extortionist and her victim?
I agree, because Katie wasn't the extortionist.
She was the extortionist.
In 2014 and
No.
2015, I didn't believe that.
I know you didn't believe it, but we're looking back now. Okay.
You know, it's like if you're going to quote me, date me. Like at what I knew in 2014 and what I knew in 2015 is not what I know now in 2023.
Okay. Yes, I hear you.
So that's really like the memorable exchange from this. If you're where it gets really nasty with you. If you're going to quote me, date me, like I hope the jury's paying attention because that is some snarky, nasty, arrogant, lying behavior. Look at that. He's so self-satisfied with his lies there. Just it's like the perfect expression to what he just said, going with what he just said.
You didn't know then, and that's why you were nice to her.
Yeah, I thought she was protecting me.
Got it. And none of those factors that I pointed out weighed into that consideration, that she ran her mouth, that she brought the Latin Kings on you, she was taking the money from you. None of that counterbalanced it. You were still going to be friends with her and keep her happy.
You're wrong. I didn't know about the Latin Kings in 2014 or 2015.
All right. The love text.
I wonder if they can call Jeffrey Lacasse as a rebuttal witness, the prosecution, or if that's hearsay what Adelson told Lacasse in the hot tub. I wouldn't think it would be since he was told directly, but I don't know.
Which is what I'm referring to all these texts where
Meaning he like bragged about his friends on the other side of the tracks and his really hurting a woman sexually. Put it like that. Like every woman's fear. Being this woman embarrassed him, so he assaulted her in a way that no woman wants to be assaulted in bed. He's just a horror. I would just wish they could get Jeffrey Lacoste to be a rebuttal witness, if that's even possible, or anyone in the story. How come he's the only one with this story? Of everyone who's testified, no one's ever mentioned this extortion plot, except he seems to be the only one who knows it. And the only ones who could verify it are his parents, and they're not testifying. From what I've heard, they haven't even come into the courtroom.
You're still nice to this person after you break up with her. You're still doing favors for this person after you break up with her. And that's like a major problem for your defense, isn't it?
No, our relationship got stronger. I agree. Our relationship got stronger, but it was much different.
Isn't that why she has to be an innocent conduit between you and the bad guys? Because if those texts didn't exist, she would be the extortionist and the bad actor in this whole thing, right?
I'm not following your theory.
You have to explain away those texts, don't you, Doctor?
No, I have to sit here and tell you the truth. And now you're finding it out.
Most people don't send kissy faces to people that are extorting money out of them. I mean, she was taking your money.
Did you see that little expression he made? It's like a child lying. Let's see if we can go back just a tiny little bit. Tiny little bit. It's so crazy. Let's watch that exchange. Watch his face when there's just a moment of silence right after that his stupid, childish, ridiculous lying answers.
10:30:15, you tell her you miss her. 12:09 of 15, again, you tell her she's the best.
Yeah, I said all those things.
Do you agree that this picture does not look like a relationship between an extortionist and her victim?
I agree, because Katie wasn't the extortionist.
She was the extortionist.
In 2014 and
No.
2015, I didn't believe that.
I know you didn't believe it, but we're looking back now, okay?
You know, it's like if you're going to quote me, date me. Like at what I knew in 2014 and what I knew in 2015 is not what I know now in 2023.
Okay, yes, I hear you.
Okay, watch
You
here.
didn't know then, and that's why you were nice to her.
Yeah, I thought she was protecting me.
Got it. And none of those factors that I pointed out weighed into that consideration, that she ran her mouth, that she brought the Latin Kings on you, she was taking the money from you. None of that counterbalanced it. You were still going to be friends with her and keep her happy.
You're wrong. I didn't know about the Latin Kings in 2014 or 2015.
All right. The love text, which is what I'm referring to all these texts where you're still nice to this person after you break up with her. You're still doing favors for this person after you break up with her. I mean, that's like a major problem for your defense, isn't it?
No, our relationship got stronger. I agree. Our relationship got stronger, but it was much different.
Isn't that why she has to be an innocent conduit between you and the bad guys? Because if those texts didn't exist, she would be the extortionist and the bad actor in this whole thing, right?
I'm not following your theory.
You have to explain away those texts, don't you, Doctor?
No, I have to sit here and tell you the truth. And now you're finding it out.
Right here. Yep, right there. It's like that little I hate doing like no one. I mean, he might enjoy getting over if he can get away with this, but this is like a long shot Hail Mary type defense. He might get a hung jury, maybe, but I don't see an acquittal here. Who knows though? O.J. Simpson got an acquittal, and that shocked the heck out of everyone.
Most people don't send kissy faces to people that are extorting money out of them. I mean, she was taking your money.
Again, Ms. Kappelman, she was not extorting me at the time.
That's not how it's done, is it?
I'm telling you how it was done.
So then over these next 2 years, you would meet her monthly and hand over a bundle of checks and $3,000 in cash, right?
No, you're wrong.
Okay, tell me.
I would hand
Tell me
over
I'm wrong.
$2,000 in cash and a bundle of checks.
$2,000 in cash and a bundle of checks. And so over the course of 2 years, I'm terrible at math, but that's roughly how much money? Because I think I did $3,000. It's $48,000 in cash, in addition to the $138 you provided the night of. Do you agree with that?
If your math is correct, I'm just telling you what I paid her each month.
And the checks, which is another $17,000, right?
You're doing the math.
It was a lot of money. Was it a lot of money to you?
It was a lot of money to me, yeah. I work hard.
Did the extortionists, whoever they were, ever try to increase the payments or come for more money?
The extortion never went up, and Katie was always broke. And that's what led me to think that she was not a part of this, because she could have easily jacked up the payments.
Well, she's sharing $3,000 a month with a bunch of other people, right? At least one other person.
I didn't think she was sharing it. Why is she coming?
That's his payment plan, $3,000 a month. It's so ridiculous. This guy's like putting in implants, dental implants, like the most expensive dental work, cosmetic dentistry. And he, according to his own testimony on direct, he was working at like 38 practices. So they try to make him a workaholic, like he's too busy to organize a hit on his brother-in-law.
To me for $300 for her kid's birthday.
Because she's broke.
Because she wasn't getting any of the money.
Half of $3,000 doesn't do much when you're living in Miami with 2 kids to feed, right?
I didn't think she was sharing anything.
Well, even if she was sharing, if that's your point, she must not have been taking the money because she was broke. And my point is, she could have been taking half the money and been broke.
That's not how I saw it.
It's not a lot of money.
That's not how I saw it.
Tell me about Dan Markel a little bit. What you sort of said, what I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, was he was, a nice enough guy, typical Wendy boyfriend, but not really your kind of guy.
Yeah, I think it's an accurate description.
Right. Do you agree that he was this brilliant legal mind?
I think he was a little on the nerdy, nice guy. Just kind of like the average guy that my sister dated.
Not the kind of guy you want to have a beer with, though.
We never had a beer together. I mean, not that I wouldn't have had a beer if he wanted to have one. We just didn't have that much in common, but he was always nice to me.
Do you appreciate the fact that his death was a terrible loss to his sons?
It was horrible.
Do you think they were better off without him?
Absolutely not.
Did you host a celebration dinner after his murder?
That's a complete lie.
On The Wire, would you agree that the Markel boys were in the background pretty much of every call you had with your mom, and you hear them a lot, right?
My sister was working, so my parents would help my sister out, yeah.
Yeah, and it was summertime, so they were out of school, I would assume.
I don't know if it was every call, but they definitely helped my sister out for sure.
All right, and those calls captured Donna pushing them on the swings, that call that tortured all of us a couple times. Remember that one?
Yeah, there was a call where she was pushing them on the swings.
Taking them to tennis lessons.
That was the same day. I mean, that was the same call that got broken up, and she called me back. But yes.
Doing their bedtime routine.
Helping my sister out for sure.
Reading stories, brushing teeth, getting haircuts, going to piano, story time and bedtime, all of that kind of stuff.
All stuff that parents and grandparents do. You're right.
All right. She even said to you on one of the calls regarding the bedtime routine that, quote, we have a whole routine going. Do you remember that?
I have a whole routine with my son. I mean, I think it's normal with kids. You have a routine.
So what Georgia Kappelman's point is that, isn't it interesting that the Adelson family are benefiting, especially the grandmother, Donna Adelson, who is on the tapes talking about the undercover, and she's the smartest one of all of them because she shut her mouth when she knew there was a chance of being recorded and would only talk in person. They should have tried to bug their homes.
To put them to bed.
Right.
You gotta
all the
brush
kind
your
of
teeth.
things.
Can't forget to brush your teeth.
all the yeah, little dental humor couldn't hurt, right?
What's that?
I love Georgia's snarky comments. A little dental humor couldn't hurt. And he's like, what's that? And she's like, never mind. But I've been surprised that the defense has only objected to a few times to her snarky comments. But he wants the jury to remember that he's a dentist and he's someone important and someone we often don't see as defendants in criminal trials.
All the things that your mom wouldn't have been able to do as readily if the kids were living in Tallahassee. Agree with that?
I mean, when they come up to visit them, they'd be doing the same thing.
Sure, when they came up to visit, but now they're doing it every day, right? Almost every day.
Not every day, but when my sister needed them, she helped them out.
And these are all things, these little routine things that Dan Markel will never be able to do with his sons. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Does your mom have a favorite child?
She says she doesn't have favorites, but I don't think she likes my older brother.
Okay. But is Wendy the favorite?
I'd like to think it's a tie between me and her.
Does your mom worry more about Wendy than you?
The older brother may be the only one who's halfway decent in this family. He broke away from the family and moved to upstate New York, is what I've heard. Way up. Way upstate. I'm going to pick this up maybe another time. I have to wake up really early in the morning. I have a 7:45 a.m. doctor's appointment. So I will see you guys. Maybe we can pick this up. We are 121 minutes into it. We can pick up his cross where he says in his cross, if we haven't already passed it, and I missed it, that he didn't go to Dan Markel's funeral because he was grieving too much. But this was fun, just hanging out and watching it with you guys. Have a great night, and we'll pick this up maybe sometime soon. Have a good night, everybody.